Per usual, everyone, this channel is for educational purposes only. It is not intended as financial advice. On most Fridays, I record a podcast, a live stream, on Twitch and YouTube with Ledger Status Brian Krogsgaard, as many of you know. We don't do it every week, but we do it most weeks. On weeks we don't record, I'll always make a video anyway, because, especially like this week, there was just, I feel like, a flurry of news. It's good to consolidate it. Some people aren't aware of what's happening, want some quick nuggets, and I'll put some alpha at the end regarding Twitter as well. Here's a link to the Ledgercasts in the live tab on this other YouTube channel, and I'll put this in the description of the video below. As many of you know probably already, this week we've had a series of filings from large issuers in the Bitcoin spot ETF product market, and as Bitcoin Magazine astutely puts here, this is what institutional adoption looks like. At the end of the day, if you're watching this video, you're probably somebody who has self-storage, self-custody, or you are on a centralized exchange, or you're familiar with DEXs, right? This is not the type of crypto that most institutional players want to ever think about, want to ever worry about. They will always be on Fidelity, they will always be on Aladdin or BlackRock or whatever it is, right? They are not moving assets anywhere else. It's just not going to happen, okay? So it's a big tent. There's a lot of room for a lot of people. And if we want to continue to grow as an asset class, these are the types of things we need to do, is to offer different products for different people. Now, is it crypto in the traditional sense? Maybe not really, but Bitcoin specifically is banking, payments, and investing. In the United States, it's predominantly investing. Internationally, abroad, remittances, emerging markets, etc. Plenty of data to support payments, Lightning Network, for example, right? So depending on why you're here, Bitcoin can have a completely different experience, right? It can live, it's like buying a Pog and putting it in a trophy case versus actually playing Pogs, okay? There's still Pogs. Not that Bitcoin is Pogs, for the two people who know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so we got spot ETFs out the yang, right, from all these issuers. Huge, right? This is trillions of dollars in AUM. And Zoran Cole retweeted this image here as far as important dates. So how this works is you'll file an ETF application, and then as it says here, the clock starts for the SEC to do something, right? They can approve it, they can deny it, or they can slow walk it over and over and over, which is historically what they've done. And they have not come out and said, we want more information, or we'll get back to you, right? They've either just denied it or they've slow walked it for the most part. This recent news I'll get to in a second, I think is a welcomed development, okay? They're asking for more information. Melton put out this image that kind of went viral. I've seen it 10 different places at this point. But again, this sort of illustrates who's here, why they're here, what they're doing, what their AUM is. Again, this is money that is very much likely never leaving BlackRock, Fidelity, like realistically, right? They're not going to go transfer money to some exchange. It's just not going to happen, right? So there needs to be pipes and connectivity and accessibility for this type of investor. And she breaks down, the different shops and what they're doing, totaling, let's say, 27 trillion in AUM, conservatively, as she says there. We also had a BitX 2X ETF leveraged, launched this week. So not only was it already approved, but it actually launched. I actually got a little piece of it the other day, because why not, right? For history, I think it was the largest ETF launched this year on the first day. I haven't looked at it lately. There's not a lot of data, obviously, it just launched. I'll take a look at it next week. But again, this is important from an institutional connectivity perspective. Now you've got people coming out of the woodwork on the Bitcoin side of things saying this is dangerous. Volatility is too high for a 2X ETF. Okay, that's great. But you know what? Different strokes for different folks. If you don't like it, you don't have to trade it, right? Is it silly that we're approving a 2X ETF and not a spot ETF? Absolutely. But the 2X ETF is based off of the futures, the CME futures. So at least that's my understanding of it. So I will take it. I will take everything. Just keep it coming, right? And then today we had this interesting headline from Wall Street Journal that was probably more bearish on the initial take. At least that's how the market took it, certainly, than what actually is happening here, right? I think people and maybe algorithmic bots or whatever read this headline as BlackRock ETF denied, right? In reality, the SEC is asking for more information. Now, if the information provided regarding the surveillance sharing agreement is not adequate for an approval, right, then the SEC will say no, right? We're not quite there yet. I think more information, asking for more information is a good thing. Not denying it outright is a good thing. So all these filers are going to have to add more information or refile or whatever it is they need to do. And from a legal perspective, right, to dot their T's, cross their I's, whatever, right, just to make sure that they get the SEC's blessing. But I do not think this will lead to outright blocking of the applications. And even if it does, I'm sure BlackRock is willing to continue to apply, right? As Eric at Bloomberg acknowledges, they just want more details on SSA. What is the exchange involved here? Is it Coinbase? Is it EDX? Is it whoever else, right? And then the SEC is going to come back and say, we're going after Coinbase for XYZ, or that's not an exchange of sufficient size, or whatever it is. But at least we're having a conversation here. It's not just an immediate no, right? So I'll take that as a win. And this was the market reaction on that headline this morning. I wake up, I'm like, oh, good, we're at 3,100. Went to bed at 3,100. Things were looking pretty good. I get up, start to make some coffee, look at the chart, and I'm wondering what the hell happened here. And we're down $1,000+ in a few minutes on open. And some Twitter/TV TradingView Alpha. You can copy and paste tweets onto charts. Sometimes it's useful just to line up, when exactly news was released. Now, oftentimes in this case specifically, right, the news will hit the wires before a tweet will. So that's my excuse for, the tweet being like 20 minutes behind here. But anyway, you can see all the volume here. This is on the index from TradingView. And I think most importantly, we've still held that 30K level from a psychological perspective. And when you're talking about support resistance, round even numbers do have psychological significance, such as 30,000. And the longer they continue to have significance, the longer they're likely to act as support, or the more solid support they're likely to be. So if we can continue to hold above 30, I like higher highs eventually, right? If we can survive kind of a nothing burger headline, I think we'll do okay. And I haven't watched this yet, but Bloomberg also breaks it down further. I'll put this in the description of the video. And there was a Reuters article as well. I'll put in the description. But again, I think this is excellent. Okay. We want the SEC to have a dialogue. We want issuers to be able to fix whatever they need to fix, right, to get it through. That's the goal here. So I will take it. On top of that, along with ETF news this week, we had a Canadian ETF issuer, 3iQ, talking about offering ETH staking with its funds. Well, this may seem like a nothing burger, but places like Grayscale's ETH product, for example, right, you're getting hit on fees, which are on the NAV, not the discount to the NAV. So you're getting hammered on that, and then you're not even getting the staking rewards. So you're getting further diluted on that. I also think putting ETH in a staking wrapper, or whatever they want to call it, allows the product to be sold and understood as something with yield. And I think in a legacy traditional sense, that's extremely popular. Yield is a dangerous word because that's what got a lot of these exchanges in the US in trouble. That's what got, Celsius, BlockFi in trouble. So it'll be interesting to see how they do this and how they get it done, and if the Canadian regulators go through with it, right? It'll be an interesting little experiment. We also have some news that Celsius is selling, it's not a lot of crypto, right? They're selling some alts for Bitcoin and ETH. This was sort of a question I had, even in the FTX realm. How are they going to be giving these, let's say you get 33 cents on a dollar, 55 cents on a dollar, whatever it is, right, back to people from the recovery of the funds? Do they give it to you in a currency of your choice? Do they give it to you in rubles, in USD, right? This is international we're talking about, so it could be whatever country potentially that you're in that you'd want. In the Celsius case, it looks like they're going directly to BTC and ETH. Do they do it in Tether even, right? I could see Tether being a decent choice, USDC, some stablecoin. But we're starting to see that. It was easy. So Mt. Gox, right, had one coin. They just had Bitcoin. They had nothing else to distribute to people. That Litecoin listing just never came. So on that front, it's pretty easy. That's all you have to give to people. It's either Bitcoin or USD. In this case, with these exchanges and Celsius and whatnot, they kind of have to make a decision as far as what they're going to do. So this might put more downward bearish pressure on these coins, not even directly from these sales, but just from people who know that the sale is coming. Would you be holding this stuff right now if you're actively trading it? You know, probably not. You're probably looking for lower lows. You're looking for this news on chain to be finalized, you know, and this is any coin. This isn't just the Celsius stuff. This is anything that gets delisted or anything that Robinhood has to sell, right? This is going to be an ongoing story, but it's interesting that they decided Bitcoin and ETH specifically. And there's also some more news about the SEC wanting to challenge this. So it's not exactly a done deal just yet. On top of that, this week, we also had the CME announce an ETH BTC ratio futures, which I think is massive just based on the chart because it's kind of at a precipice of lower lows here. And we've got the ETH BTC chart, that's a tongue twister, on this diamond top, lower lows, has not made a higher high realistically since moving to proof of stake. And there are many people who want this to continue to be bearish. You know, I think a retest of 05, another psychological level, is reasonable eventually. The question is, how is this going to play in with this product? Because historically, when we see products get launched in an institutional sense, that has been the top. Look at the Bitcoin futures from the CME, look at all of the ETFs, the list goes on and on and on. So is this going to be the bottom for ETH BTC when this gets launched on July 31st? I don't know. I think there's a lot of regulatory uncertainty, and we're going to see that maybe get blown out a little bit from a trading perspective if there's actually institutional money behind trading this pair. I think the volume in the beginning is going to be low, but it's definitely a useful product if you want to trade event-driven price action, right? And then on Twitter today, I also talked about this megaphone thing that's probably going to, well, might resolve by the time we speak again on Sunday. But what this gift of this news event gave us was effectively another higher high and another lower low. And when you see continuous higher highs and continuous lower lows that look like this, sort of with an equilibrium, you refer to that as an expanding, broadening top or bottom, or more commonly probably a megaphone. Bulkowski, the the chart pattern god, says that these have a 60% bullish bias. I really don't like trading this because to me it's 50-50. Which doesn't really help, right? It doesn't give you an edge one way or the other. But, you know, I go through in this thread, and we obviously had one earlier this year, a really massive, huge range before we broke up in January, February, March, pre-SVB, BTFP stuff. BBBY had a multi-year megaphone that broke up as well. And then Lynx also got, I guess you could consider it a megaphone, right? I really like this because of the descending volume, but just interesting little data points on the chart pattern perspective on lower time frames. And as far as Twitter's concerned, so I made a macro list finally for Twitter. Now, I don't know how many people even use lists on Twitter necessarily, but Twitter has this function where you can throw people into a group, okay? You don't even have to follow them, which is interesting. But so if you dislike a bunch of people but want to know what they're saying, you can put them in a list, right? You can say, this is my counter trading list or whatever. In this case, this is the macro list. These are the people that I use frequently in Bianco, you know, astutely up there. But Bianco, Bolello, Danielle DiMartino Booth, Lynn Alden, right? All these people who are constantly talking about sort of TradFi, macro, interest rates, that sort of thing. And how to use this effectively on a desktop. So I use TweetDeck. I don't know how many people even know about TweetDeck anymore. I assumed everybody knew what DeFi Llama was, but a few people in the comments on that video didn't know what DeFi Llama was. But anyway, you know, Twitter native on desktop just has a lot of blank empty space, and it's not really, in my opinion, used efficiently. What TweetDeck allows you to do for free, as you can see here, is tighten up these columns and give you a ton of screen real estate to look at what's going on across not just, you know, one monolith of a column. So I'll put my lists in the description of this video, but what you can do, each column can be its own list, as you can see at the top here, right? Traders is mainly crypto people. But if you're an always online person like I am, you know, I've had a screen dedicated to TweetDeck for years. And so long as Elon continues not to destroy Twitter, we might be okay on this front. But highly recommend doing this, it'll make your Twitter experience 1,000 times better. And literally all you do is you add a column and you select a list, and that's it. So what you can even do is you can follow other people's lists and then add other people's lists to your tweet deck, or you can make your own list, right? It doesn't matter, whatever you want to do. And it looks like we've got some more refilings here from other issuers following that news as well today. So anyway, that's all for this one. Let me know what you think if you like this style of rapid fire news highlights. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe, and happy trading.